Hello everyone, Michelle Burnt, your host of A Healthy Spirit podcast. Welcome back. Every month we have different topics, and this month we're talking about pride and humility. And I want to ask you something. Which one right now do you think you possess most or more of? Today we have our special guest, Marcus Pittman, and he is the CEO and co-founder of Lore TV. Definitely check out their website, Lore TV.
Yes, Lore.tv.
Lore.tv. Perfect. All right, well, welcome so much, Marcus.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you. And you traveled a long ways to be with me today.
Yeah, Idaho.
Idaho.
Yeah.
Love it, love it. Well, let's jump in. I was on your website, Lore.tv, and love what you guys stand for. Can you tell our listeners more just about the mission, vision, how this came about, and what you guys do?
So basically what we're trying to do is trying to figure out a way that filmmakers can escape the Hollywood system, and then the streaming subscribers can make content that, or streaming subscribers can watch content that they actually want to see. So with like Netflix and Disney, when you pay a monthly subscription, you're paying the subscription and it goes towards funding content, but you get no say in what that content is. And so what we wanted to do was allow the monthly subscribers to spend their monthly subscription funding movies and TV shows. So I joke that it's health sharing, but it's for movies and TV shows. So all the subscribers come together and they're building a streaming platform together as a community. You know, we don't have any distribution options. Everybody wants to make Christian movies, but nobody wants to make a decent streaming platform. And so that's sort of what we just, what became Lore.
Yeah.
Was, the other problem that Christian filmmakers have is getting funding to make their content. So because a lot of the Christian streaming platforms are only looking for stories for 35-year-old women and above, mainly. So there's no masculine content, there's no man-centered content or masculine movies and TV shows for men, because the entire Christian film industry was built for the women who shop at Lifeway Christian bookstores, which isn't a bad thing. It's a smart business decision, but those bookstores don't exist anymore, and men are more in charge of the entertainment in their homes than they've ever been. So we wanted to make basically a masculine streaming platform that is for fathers. We like to say it's for men who, 18 to 35-year-old men who don't want to see strangers naked, and their sons. So that's,
it's crazy. You know, I'm a mom of two teenagers, 13 and 16, and every time I turn on the television, I cringe because of what they may see.
Right.
And it's so hard, really, honestly, and even for myself as an adult, to have just good content out there. Love the concept. So
your sons are gonna love our show called Barely Biblical.
Okay.
It's about animated teddy bears reenacting the most violent Old Testament Bible stories.
Really?
So it's a cartoon series made for like right in that age group. So it's brilliant.
I love that. Kind of put a more modern spin on it.
Yeah.
So tell us more about you. Have you always been in filmmaking?
Well, I've always been, for the most part. I got into it by accident. I was a camp counselor at a Bible camp, and then the second year I went back, and they said, "Could you just film the students every week and make a video instead of being a camp counselor this year?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can do that," but I never did that stuff before. So I did that, and apparently I was good enough to get an internship at a local TV station.
What?
And,
that's wonderful.
So, yeah.
I love that. And I think that's good for people to hear your story, Marcus, because you started as a church camp counselor. And look where it's led you.
I know.
I mean, it's amazing. And so sometimes people wonder, like, what is my purpose? What am I doing? Why this job? Why now? Why this? But everything leads to God's purpose for you.
That's right.
Yeah. That's so good. All right. So I love talking about Hollywood. I'm a sucker for that stuff. And, you know, I was really thinking, so many people want to become famous. They want to make it to Hollywood. So what is the cost to this commitment? Because there's got to be one.
Yeah, so, well, one is just losing your soul. The other thing is you kind of get these golden handcuffs where it's like they're paying you a lot of money, but you really don't have any freedom to make the content that you really want. and some of that's true for the Christian film industry too, where they pay you, and but you have to make movies about ponies, right? So there's no adventure or risk taking in Christian film anymore, and so we're trying to really just sort of change the Christian film industry, and do that. But there's also the issue of pride and recognition is something that they really want. They want to give you awards and all those sort of things. So it's a real danger in that sense. But also, a lot of the people who work in Hollywood because they are actually talented, and they're rewarded rightfully for that. And so I think when we talk about pride, there's a danger to false humility, and in the Christian film industry, I think has been ruined. I think a lot because of false humility, because we would say, well, it's just ministry, so it doesn't have to be that great, and the movie doesn't have to be that good as long as it reaches one person.
Right.
That's just ridiculous. That's just not how.
So with Christian films, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around why is it so difficult and why are their hands tied? I mean, when you look at the Bible, it's complex. The stories, like especially Revelations, they're intense, right? And so why can't the movies be like that? Why do you think that they just try to keep it bright and beautiful?
Well, I think a lot of that is Hollywood's engineering of the Christian film industry to keep us away for competition-wise. So this worked in Nashville as well. So Nashville, you had Christian music and country music. They came together around the same time as one and the same. In fact, if you go to the Country Music Hall of Fame, the first thing you see when you walk in the museum is like old hymnals, right? Because country music came from Christian hymnals and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, love that.
Same thing happened when you have like the Passion of the Christ, $630 million in the box office, probably the largest foreign film ever because it wasn't even in English, right? And so when that happened, instead of saying, "Well, we should make more movies like that,"
right,
the response was, "We're going to blacklist everybody. We're going to, isolate Christian films into this sort of, category." And so I think a lot of that is that, and then just incompetence and people prioritizing the message over the art, I think, is a problem as well, where it's like we don't see Hollywood focuses on the narrative, right? They focus on the story, they focus on the talent and the skill, and in so doing, they're able to get their message out to a lot more people, even if it's lighter or hidden. But there's always a message in it. And whereas we focus on, well, the message has got to be the predominant thing, and the art doesn't matter. As long as one person gets saved when they watch your movie, that's all that matters. But that's not the purpose of art. Art isn't supposed to be a gospel track. Like in Genesis, Romans, it says that the invisible attributes of God are clearly seen throughout creation, right? But it's the preaching of the gospel that saves, not the stars, heaven, and sky, that sort of thing. That's general revelation. Special revelation saves. So God's greatest handiwork is, the stars and the creation of humans and all these sort of things. But none of that saves anybody. So that gives us permission to be artists and just make good stories and make good content. Yeah. It doesn't have to save anybody. And I think we've lost that. We lost that message.
So speaking of Hollywood, it's obviously known for creating idols of all kinds. Yeah. Why don't more celebrities talk about Christ? They've got the platform, they've got the floor, they could do so much with it. Why don't we hear about Christ?
Well, I think some of them aren't Christians. First and foremost, they're not Christians. Second is there's a massive rejection of Christianity within Hollywood. It's pretty deep. Christianity is immediately suppressed and put aside. But there's a lot of Christians who work for Hollywood, and we've hired them, and they're going to be working for us and making movies for you.
Yeah, it pains my heart because I think Hollywood and just that industry in general has been pushed so far down a rabbit hole that now anything that they publish has to have every color, every genre, every type of sexuality, and it's just sad that they have to have handcuffs on their hand and be forced to have all of that in every single show.
But it's a terrible business decision because it doesn't make good stories, and so they can't do that forever. And so, you know, some people talk about, you know, we're going to go into Hollywood and we're going to change Hollywood. And at us, you know, my shirt, it says just cancel Hollywood. We don't need them. We've been given tools and the ability to make films cheaply and inexpensively, and we have the ability to create our own distribution platforms and stuff. There really is no need for Hollywood at this point. We just need to pretend like it doesn't exist, and we can basically do whatever they can do.
Interesting concept. I can't wait to hear what our listeners think. So do you think many filmmakers and artists lose God along the way, and how do you even begin to stay grounded in this industry?
Yeah, I think one of the things I think is important, I don't think we really defined false humility. So false humility is pride is attributing to yourself any attribute that's not true. So if you are good at something and you're like, oh, I don't know, I'm just doing whatever I can, or, you know, I just try the best, but you're really good at something, that's false humility. Because you're attributing to yourself that you're inadequate for the job.
Right.
And so a lot of times with Christian artists, we just attribute to ourselves, well, you know, I just work for the Lord.
Right.
Well, but when you look at the Bible, like in Exodus 35, when it talks about the artists that are coming before to build the temple in Exodus 35, they're looking for skilled workers. In Proverbs it says, a man who is skilled in his work will stand before kings. Right? So there's this assumption that there's good and bad in your work. And so you should know if you're good or not, and you should charge accordingly. I think a lot of times we charge less when we charge our Christian brothers and sisters for work, and I don't think we should do that. I think we should. Personally, I think you should charge more for a Christian because they're going to do a better job.
Yeah, I think it's so important because, you know, when you're thinking, I think you brought up something really important, because when I stand here and think about, you know, the jobs I do or things I'm passionate about, it is okay to say, I'm good at it, and here's why. Because you're good at it because Chris made you good at it.
Right.
He gave you all the tools you need
you're
to be
lying
successful.
about God. You're lying about God when you say you're not good at something and you're trying to be humble.
Right.
Eric. So if to say I'm really good at this and I'm the best in the world when you're not, that's pride.
Right. Right.
But also on the same attribute, it's if you say I'm really bad at this when God made you good at it, you're lying too. So.
Right. Well, that's I like that.
Yeah.
So Lore TV is on a mission to redefine what good content consists of. There are high dollar productions and powerful productions. What does good mean?
Yeah, great question. So when God created the heavens and the earth, He said it's good, right? He created light, He created darkness, and He created the plants and the trees and the planets and the stars and the heavens and humans, and He said it's good, and He looked back on it and said it was very good. So that, being an artistic work that God did, was the first thing recorded that we see God doing, is an artistic work, and He called it good, which means that there is an objective, unchanging standard of good and bad art. Mm-hmm. So it's not postmodernism. So postmodernism says you can take a banana and duct tape it to a wall, and that's good. Right? But you wouldn't want your doctors with a postmodern view.
Right.
You want to make sure your doctors are actually skilled and talented.
Right.
So there is a standard, and I think we know what that standard is. So we were at the Guggenheim and we were walking through the museum, and they have their main galleries, and main galleries is all this postmodern art, and no one's really looking at it, paying much attention to it. But when you go to the side gallery, that's where you see your Van Goghs and your Pablo Picassos and stuff like that, like really amazing artwork. There's a huge crowd around So I think you know what good art is based on the size of the audience that it receives. That's one good measurement.
Right.
There's problems with that, of course, too. But something inside every image bearer that's created by God that just knows what good art is. You watch a movie, you know if the lighting is bad, right? You know if the acting is bad.
Yeah.
You don't have to define that. But I can't do a movie with bad acting and say, guys, art is subjective.
Right.
Right. I can't do that.
Right.
And so you might not be able to easily define it. Like, for instance, what makes one director better than another, or like that. That's okay for conversation. But what you can't do is take something that's objectively bad and terrible and say, this guy is equivalent to, let's say, Tim Burton or Wes Anderson or Steven Spielberg or something like that. It doesn't work in the movie industry, which is really interesting. It works if you just splatter paint on the wall, and people, but it wouldn't work in the movie industry. So.
Right. Yeah. It's the concepts. I think we just take filming and acting and Hollywood and productions for granted, but the details you're sharing with us behind the scene, there's so much to it.
Yeah.
I want to go back to false humility just for a second. When I was doing my research online and Googling, it said that false humility is also known as pridefulness in disguise.
Yeah, my pastor says it's pridefulness in the fetal position. So there's a Bible verse. It's Proverbs 18:12. It says, "Before destruction, a man's heart is haughty, but humility comes before honor." So there's this assumption there that you are to be honored, right? The man who is skilled in his work, he will stand before kings, right? So these people who are good at what they do and they reject honor, like that's a problem, and so we need to be aware of that. What was the specific question about it? I lost it.
Just kind of talking about it in general, no question, just pridefulness in disguise, just in general. When I was reading the definitions, I'm like, ooh, that's intense.
Yeah. And
then it started to get me to the topic of, which one are you? Are you more prideful? Right. Are you humble? Right. Is there some false humility in there?
Yeah. Well, there's. So I would say that King David, when he was standing before Goliath, was humble, but he was also very confident in his skills and abilities and who God was, right? So you see, a young child who's standing before a giant, and he believes passionately that God has given him the skills to be able to take down Goliath, and God did. He fought bears and animals when he was a shepherd. So he's been training all his life. So he wasn't foolish when he said he could take down Goliath. But he also knew sort of that mainly his source of strength and power comes from God. So you do see this blend of confidence in your ability and humility together in David and Goliath. I think that's a really, really great view of that. But you should be passionate and promote yourself well. I mean, like you wouldn't want a doctor who says, I just try my best.
Right.
Or a surgeon that's like, I don't know, I'll just try my best. It's terrible.
Yeah.
You want a surgeon who's really confident.
Yeah, I mean, Christ put you on this planet for a purpose.
Right.
You were created in His image, and He already knows what your vision and mission, and all of that's going to be. And so you got to take that and run with it.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So that's what we encourage our artists to do on Lore, is just to be good, and know that the subscribers are the one that's going to reward you directly, and not the executives in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you can just appeal directly to the market without having to go through hoops and gatekeepers and all this other sort of stuff, it frees you to be able to make the content that you really want to see.
That's good stuff. Thank you for that advice.